It's our series. It's an ongoing conversation with thought leaders who are shaping culture, health, and human experiences. Today's featured scholar is Beatrice Klokpah, and she's a licensed therapist, an author, and a speaker known for her intuitive, compassionate approach to healing. Drawing from her own journey, she helps others move through life challenges with clarity and resilience. We're honored to welcome her this evening, so give a round of applause and welcome her to the stage. Come on down, Beatrice.
I imagine that you took time out of your day because something about the stories of resilience spoke to you. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my personal story of resilience, but in reality, I really want to evoke within you your own stories of lived resilience. Things that you have already gone through, things that you are currently going through, or things that you are silently battling right now. So we'll cover that, but then I'm also going to share with you 4 bold steps that I took on my healing journey. These are steps that I put together after I reviewed my own healing journey, and I now use to help other women make sense of their healing journey. And while I'm sharing with you a bit about my story, I'm also going to do an exercise with you all to help you sink a little deeper into your own lived experience or whatever is coming up for you today. And then we'll wrap up with a guided meditation and a talk back, because I definitely want to hear from you all. So, I have a question for you all. This is a question that I've been mulling over for the past 3 to 5 years. Why is it that so many women, successful women, have lives on paper that look amazing, but in reality, it's the life she wants to vacation from? Can anybody answer that question? You could just shout it out. Why do you think successful women have lives on paper that look amazing, but they really want to escape from it? Societal pressures, absolutely. Exhaustion, yes. Yes, beautiful. Now, what if I told you it's because she abandons herself over and over and doesn't know it? What if I told you it's because she doesn't trust herself? What if I told you it's because she's looking for something or someone to come and rescue her? I know that woman well. I used to be her. And I'll be honest with you, I still intentionally work on myself to avoid reverting back to that old version of me. Today, thankfully, I get to show up as a woman who feels strongly in who I am, feels more clear about my purpose. I get to walk in this body and help other women do their healing work as a therapist, particularly as a trauma therapist. And I get to see them walk in my office feeling like fragments of themselves, and to see them along their journey and really fill out into to the women that they always were meant to be anyway. There are not very many people that get to walk intimately along people's journey. And I get to do that. I get to get paid to do that. And I'm so thankful. You know, when I was a kid, I always knew that I would do work that involved helping people. I was always a little social worker at heart. Whenever I saw the commercials of kids being mistreated, I would just get all of my feelings about it. I always knew that I would help people, but I didn't know it would look like this. We have all arrived to this place at this time for such a time as this. So, as we move forward in my story, there are going to be times where I'm going to have to slow down and check in with you all to make sure that we're on the same page, okay? So at times I may say something along the lines of, do you follow me, okay? And for you all to let me know that you're following me, I want you all to say, following, okay? Y'all got that one? So let's try that real quick. Do you follow me? Oh, y'all, that was so, wake up. Let's try it one more time. Do you follow me? Beautiful. All right, y'all got it. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. So, I want you to go into your Rolodex of memories. And I want you to think back to what was life like for you in November 2017. What was going on in your life then? Maybe you were making plans to travel for the holidays. Maybe you were just hoping for a break from the busyness of the holidays. Either or. I can remember my November 2017 very clearly. I can still see it. Sitting on the edge of my bed in my beautiful mid-rise luxury apartment in West University, not far from here. If y'all are from Houston, y'all know West U. Whew. Y'all, I love this neighborhood. The tree-lined streets. When I would walk in the evenings with my dog, I would just daydream looking into those $500,000 homes. I loved it. And even the air smelled like supper in the evening. I mean, everything about this neighborhood exuded luxury, family, peace, and a hefty dose of we made it, because this neighborhood is just, it is beautiful. And luckily, my apartment was nestled in the middle of it all. And I remember having this beautiful corner unit. We had these windows that stretched from the floor to the ceiling, these beautiful concrete stained floors. Y'all, this apartment was bad, okay? And I remember when me and my husband went and viewed it, I looked at him and I said, this is it. I want this apartment. And he looked at me and said, you can have whatever you want. Now, who doesn't want to hear that? I mean, I was beaming from ear to ear, not by his extra vote of confidence, that definitely helped. But it was also that unspoken reminder that he wanted to make sure that I was happy. Now, this moment of bliss, unfortunately, did not last long. You see, I was in a state and in a marriage that was no longer working. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed at 3 a.m. in November of 2017, crying through tear-drenched lashes. And I remember sitting there drinking a glass of brandy and Coke. I don't even like brandy. That's how bad it was. I just took whatever was there. And I remember looking and turning and seeing the blue light on my nightstand that read 3:45 a.m. And I thought to myself, I have got to get some sleep. It had been a long evening. But I knew I had an 8 a.m. session that next morning. You see, I was a therapist at Memorial Hermann Hospital, Houston's Level 1 Trauma Center. And I was a therapist to the first responders, those most vulnerable to secondary trauma. And I saw this particular client like clockwork at 8 a.m. every week. So I did what I do best. I took that last swig of brandy and Coke, I got up, I packed me a bag, and I headed to the office. I made up my mind that I was gonna push through. So I got to the office, of course. Now, this should have been my rock bottom, but somehow it was not. Y'all, I went to that office, and believe it or not, I made a pallet on the floor. Have y'all ever made a pallet on the floor? Y'all know? Okay, so y'all know what I'm talking about. I made a pallet on the floor of my office. And I remember thinking to myself, this has got to be unreal. This has got to be unreal. But I set my alarm for 7:30 a.m. I laid down, I fluffed up that extra pillow I had, the extra blanket I had, and made it into a pillow, and I went to sleep. And at 7:30 a.m., when that alarm went off, I got up promptly. I shimmied on my gray pencil skirt. I powdered on my face. I had cried off one of my lashes. I had to put the lash back on. Y'all, this morning was a mess. And I hit my bottom lid with a little bit of liner to brighten my face up. And promptly at 8 a.m., I opened the door. Good morning. Come on in. How you doing? Have you ever been in a place where your life is a hot-ass mess, but you have to put yourself together, to look better than what you even feel on the inside. Can anybody relate to that? Raise your hand if you can relate to that. Let me see where my people are. I feel y'all. We have all been through some hard things. We have all been through some hard things. You know, before that day, y'all, I thought I was on my way to the life that I had always dreamed of. Let me tell you, I was married. We were kid-free. We had plenty of money in the bank. We had just started and opened a car dealership. We had great jobs. We were juggling a lot. But people saw us as that couple that had it going on. And in a lot of ways we did, on paper at least. There's something that I talk to my clients about when we talk about coping skills. I talk to them about dropping your anchor. One of the anchors that I had was a memory that me and my husband shared at the time. And early on in our marriage, I really wanted a farmhouse table. Do y'all remember those farmhouse tables that Chip and Joanna Gaines came out with? Those tables were pricey for a young married couple, okay? We couldn't afford the table. So I told him, well, let's make a table. Let's go to Home Depot, we'll make a table. And we did. We made that farmhouse table. The anchor was this shared memory that we had, and we said, one day, we're gonna sit at this table with our children, and we're going to tell them the story about how we made this table and why we made this table. And then we're gonna tell them about our journey, and they're gonna hear this story over and over again about how now they get to live the life that they now live. And of course, we imagined that we would be sitting at that table in one of those $500,000 homes in West University with our children. But y'all, that was the anchor that I would drop. You know, when life got too stressful, working a full-time job, supporting him with growing that car business, trying to keep a marriage together and spicy, it was a lot. It was a lot. That anchor and that dream was so far from my reality. That cold November morning of 2017, I was hanging on by that dream, by the skin of my teeth. Everything that I had known was crumbling in front of me. I was in a marriage that was no longer working. And it took me and my now ex-husband years to come to terms with that. You see, he would have an affair, we'd spend a year recovering, and as soon as my nervous system settled, boom, he'd do it again. It was a ridiculous cycle that I found myself in. And I would ask myself, why? Why on earth can I not shake myself out of this marriage? Why can I not wake up? After all, I'm a therapist. I'm sure y'all are thinking that too. Y'all a therapist going through that. Y'all, I asked myself so many of the same questions. That question led to so many other soul-level questions. And that quest to answer those questions led me divinely to a 12-step program called ACA. ACA is short for Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. I worked this 12-step program for years. And this 12-step program, coupled with the work that I was doing with my therapist, really helped me connect the dots of my life. And it helped me understand how my early lived experiences were contributing to how I was still showing up as an adult. Now, are y'all following me? Okay, I'm gonna need y'all to pay attention to what I'm saying here. Although the adult, by my chronological age, I was showing up as an adult, but I was still operating from the unresolved woundings of my childhood. So, who was also present with me was my 8-year-old self, the version of me who had to tiptoe and walk on eggshells when I got home from school, particularly when my dad got home, because you never knew what kind of mood he was gonna be in. My dad is who qualified me for ACA. He was the drinker. And so you never knew what kind of mood he was going to be in. And so if you can imagine an 8-year-old child living under that level of toxicity and unsurety about what the next hour will look like, she's who was also present. It was also my 10-year-old self who experienced incessant teasing because of my dark skin. You see, as a child, I thought to myself, I can't do anything about my dark skin. So this embedded a wound, a core belief within me that I was not good enough. So that 10-year-old version of me was putting up with a lot of stuff she really didn't have to deal with. But there was also my 12-year-old self, the version of me who called myself staging an intervention with my mom and asking her to leave my daddy. I did that, y'all. And I told her, we deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. And I'm tired of my hair falling out. I remember that. And my hair falling out is the way that my body will respond to the level of stress that I was in. That and breaking out in eczema. I had eczema so bad. And only for her to turn and tell me, you need your daddy. You don't want to be like the other kids in this neighborhood that don't have a father. Now, she explained more than that, and I know that she meant well. But that response flipped the switch within me. And it taught me that I was going to have to bunker down, and I was going to have to figure out how to live and get through this environment. That was a lot. So now, when I think back to that cold November morning of 2017, I don't just see my adult self there. I also see my 8-year-old self. I see my 10-year-old self. And I see my 12-year-old self. They were there with me. They felt the familiar energy of the marriage that I was in, the home that I was in, and they were essentially asking me to do what I'd asked my mama to do, to get them, to get us to a place that felt safe, secure, loving, and at the very least, consistent. Take a breath with me. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. Can you see your younger self? The one who didn't have the tools. The one who was doing the best that they could. If you could say anything to them right now, what would you say? Hold that image. That is who we are healing for. And if you can, take one more breath, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How are y'all doing? Y'all doing okay? Are y'all following me? Beautiful. So, like many of you, I did not know that I was going to have to go through many stages and layers of healing in order to alchemize those experiences into ones of lived resilience. This picture here, it's photoshopped. That's the adult me kissing Yasi. That's what my family called me. That's my inner child. That's my little girl. So when I set boundaries, when I say no, when I walk away, I'm doing it for her. When I say yes, I'm doing it for her. That is who we heal for. And so in my healing journey, there's so many things that I learned. And one of the things that I've discovered as a therapist is when people come into your therapy space and they are looking for answers, there's so much confusion. And if anybody has ever been in a space in your life where you were just like, what in the world? I feel like I have a mound of stuff to deal with, and I don't know which one to deal with first. Walking through my journey, I developed a framework that I call BOLD. And those are the steps that I use now that I reflect on it, and that I now use to help other women walk through and make sense of their healing journey so that it feels more accessible. Most people feel when it gets too overwhelming, you just want to move on or find something that's going to make you feel better right now. And then we delay and delay and delay our healing journey. I love being able to help women find a way through their storms in a way that feels accessible and relatable. So BOLD. BOLD stands for brave, ownership, life architect, and determination. And I'm going to break down a few of these for y'all. So first, brave. I had to ask myself brave questions. Now, you all know a bit of my story. I was in a marriage and I was a therapist with somebody that was not treating me well. He didn't love me. At least he didn't act like it. He didn't treat me like he loved me. So it would have been very easy for me to only focus on what he had done wrong to me. The brave questions required me to ask myself, how did I get here? What role did I play in the mess that I'm in now, right? Turning a blind eye to things, not trusting my intuition, not speaking up and using my voice. I challenge you to also ask yourself brave questions. Ask yourself those soul level questions that feel uncomfortable. You know, when you're journaling and you get to that one spot and you're like, yeah, let me close it. I can't do this today. Those I can't do this today moments, that's when I want you to really sit with some of these brave questions. And don't let me forget, I actually have a resource that I'm going to give you all with 10 of the brave questions that I had to ask myself and that I work with clients with too, but I'll give that to y'all before we wrap up. The next one is ownership. I had to take ownership of my life. Getting married young, I was happy to have somebody that was going to lead me and figure it out. I mean, that was my mindset at the time. That's why I say I used to be that woman looking for someone to come and rescue me, to figure it out, to have the answers for me. And there were so many layers of the way that I was thinking about that was not fair to me nor him. So, a part of me taking ownership also required me to stop making God my scapegoat. I was good for saying, well, let me pray about it. I need another sign. Let me see what God says about that. When clearly there was a lot around me that was not right. So I ask you, as you think about taking ownership for the areas of your life that you are working through, what are your scapegoats? What are the things that are keeping you from where you want to be? What are your scapegoats? L stands for life architect. Being a life architect required me to start taking those steps of faith. I had to walk out all the things that I had been praying and fasting for. All the things that I said I wanted, I had to accept the invitation that was already given to me to become a co-creator with God for the life that I wanted. That can be difficult. Walking out the things it's easy for anybody to say, I want A, B, C, or D, but it's like, okay, now, are you willing to do what it takes to get it? 2 recovery slogans that I still lean on to this day. The first one is, do the next best thing. I want you to keep that in mind as you are walking through your healing journey and you find yourself getting weary to do the next thing, okay? Sometimes we think that the next best thing is something that is going to take a whole lot out of us. Depending on your day, the next best thing might be taking a nap. It might be shooting to get an extra glass of water in. I'm talking about basic self-care things. Because so many people don't even listen to their bodies when they're hungry and it's time to eat, or when they're full. These are basics that I want you to start with. Checking in with yourself. What is the next best thing? The second slogan that I want to share with you is progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. On our journeys, healing is not a destination, y'all. I'm sure everybody knows that. Healing is a journey. And every time we go through something, we're healing on deeper and deeper levels. Sometimes even I would say, I've already been through this. I thought I healed this. I spent all this money in therapy and I paid for this retreat. Why am I still dealing with this? Right? I see y'all shaking your heads. Y'all can relate to that. Y'all, our healing is always going deeper. It's always going deeper. There are new revelations that you're getting. There are new insights that you're learning about yourself. There's fresh wisdom there for you. So don't get frustrated when you feel like you're still stuck in a cycle. The cycle is there because you are ready for whatever it's willing to teach you. The last one is determination. I call this standing 10 toes down. I had to be willing to stand flat-footed and committed to the life that I said that I wanted. I had to be determined to continue to take those bold steps even when it got hard. Even when it got hard. So I want you to think about the life that you want to live. Maybe even some of the areas of your life that you want to heal. What can be your anchor that you can drop when you are ready to give up? What is that for you? Y'all, if that woman that was sitting on the edge of that bed in November 2017, trying to figure out if she could pick up the pieces of this life, because trust me, I was still trying to patch it together with some tape. I was trying to make it work by all means necessary. If she could make lemonade out of the lemons that life had given her, so can you. You too can get out of your own way. You can also heal on deeper levels. You can understand why you do what you do. All of that is available to you. So, as we wrap up, I want to walk you all through a guided meditation. This guided meditation, it's my hope that it's going to help us ground ourselves and connect and feel more safe in community before we open it up for a quick talk back. Because I want to hear from you all. I want to hear whatever questions you have. And so we'll go from there. So if you all feel comfortable, I'm going to also take a seat. I'm going to join you all in this. If you feel comfortable, I would like you to close your eyes or bring your gaze down to something below. Maybe on the floor, something on the wall in front of you. And I would like you to bring your attention to your breath. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Let your breath return to a natural rhythm. Let yourself just be without fixing, without performing. Allow your tongue to drop from the roof of your mouth. Relax your jaws and your forehead. Now bring your attention to the center of your chest, your heart space. Imagine a warm light there. This is the part of you that has always known. the part of you that has always been worthy, always been lovable, always been here. Now, I want you to imagine your younger self walking towards you at any age that comes to mind. What is he or she wearing? What is the expression on their face? You don't need to fix them, just be. Be there with them. Place your hand over your heart and say silently to your inner child, I see you. I honor you. You are not too much. You never were. And you can do this. You are safe to trust again, including yourself. Take a final deep breath in and slowly exhale. Gently wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. How was that for you all? I get some thumbs up. Okay, I got some nods going. Beautiful. This is the time for our talk back. And in the talk back, I want to open up the space. I'll start with asking you all some questions. I'll break the ice. But I would love to hear from you all as well with any questions that you may have, anything that I can answer for you, even if you feel comfortable sharing something that you're going through that you might want some real-time feedback on. But first, I would like to ask, I think somebody will come with the microphone in case whenever someone speaks. But if you want, you can raise your hand. But one of the things I want to ask is, what part of this message resonated with you today? Is there any part of the message that resonated with you that you would like to share?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I definitely had a November 2017 moment in November 2018, so really grateful for you sharing that story. And there's definitely a lot more work that I'm doing to make it to the other side. I guess I do have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Absolutely.
I have a really hard time with I trust myself and, I deserve this. Do you have any advice for that part of the healing journey to get back to the trust?
Yeah, that is a really great question. So let me make sure that I'm hearing you clearly. You're saying that you have a hard time trusting yourself and you want some tips on how to work through that.
Yeah, even if I'm thinking about like a mantra or in a meditation and thinking about like I trust myself, my immediate reaction in my body is like I don't believe that. So I'm curious if you have any suggestions about that.
I do. That's a really great question. So were you here for the point where I did, where I talked about my inner child and now when I look back, I don't see just the adult me, I see those versions. I want you to pay attention to the times where you are feeling like you don't trust yourself, right? When we think about our life journey, we have to look at our patterns. So there may be particular times in your life where you struggle with trusting yourself or making decisions. Pay attention the next time that comes up. And I want you to go inward. And when I say inward, meaning to your heart space. And I want you to quietly ask yourself something along the lines of, what am I afraid of? When was the first time that I felt like I had to question what I was doing or if something was okay? Now, I know that can seem like a really man, that's pretty deep to jump right into, but it's getting to the root of the work. Because the parts of us that are adults, we're all walking around with the version of our inner child that's present, right? And so asking yourself that question will give you access and permission to start connecting with the versions of you that can give you the answers to why you're not trusting yourself. I'm a firm believer that awareness comes first. So first we need awareness, like those light bulb moments that go off, like, man, I realized the first time I feel like I couldn't trust myself was, when I thought it was okay to go outside and then I couldn't and then I got in trouble. It can be something as small as that. But the awareness of that creates this ripple effect of healing that now you're able to do because you've accessed the awareness. Are you following what I'm saying about that?
Following, thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Great question, and thank you for the feedback.
Hi, make sure this works here. I think what really resonated for me, and I say this as a lifelong Catholic, but kind of,
I'm
latched
sorry, I can't hear you that well.
Is it better now? Or-
Yes, much
yeah.
better.
I think what resonated with me as a lifelong Catholic, but kind of in and out of it, is this idea of taking co-creatorship of your life. Because I think you see a lot of people who kind of are willing to just let life happen to them and not be a presence within their own lives. So I think from the perspective of resilience, and I think this is the other side of it, fearlessness, is this ability to reclaim your life. And I think that's the real value for a lot of people who are feeling very powerless. And I think that's the idea here.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for giving your feedback on that. Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, that was a big step for me, taking that responsibility.
Testing, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So feedback for you, part of the BOLD acronyms in the Life Architect section.
Yes.
It really resonated with me when you said healing is a journey. Not only that, but when you said it always goes deeper.
Yeah.
I'm someone who's been like in and out of therapy since I was 11, whatever. Yeah, 11 years old, and so it's kind of just like I'm recently starting up with it again, and it was actually difficult for me to like get back into it because it was like that moment where it's like, aren't you healed yet? Like, what more do you need? And it's really easy to kind of twist the words and the thought process of like, oh, well, you just must not be trying hard enough. Like if you keep on getting the tools and don't use it, it's like I, for the long time, was thinking, well, it must be me. Like I'm doing something wrong here. No, probably just have more to uncover. But my question for you is like, how should I put this? I'm someone who, like I mentioned, I've been in and out of therapy for a great number of years. And so I've kind of like grown to know myself a lot. And I find that like, I sometimes feel like I take up a lot of space in a lot of places. I don't mean to, but it's just like, I just say my truth and I just present myself as I am. And I feel like sometimes there can be a bit of an imbalance between, I guess, my input and other people's input. So I guess to give like an example, for instance, I'm like a little more introverted in terms of like energy. So like I need to have space to myself, to like decompress and all these other things. And so I do that. But sometimes I find that people, like my peers and whatever, they interpret it as me ignoring them or me being aloof or me not wanting to hang out with them and all these other things. And even though I am typically very, communicative, I'll like tell them, that I need some space or, this is what's happening and all these other conversations. It's really hard sometimes to get that first impression out of someone's mind. So what's your advice for like, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, but then also having, the consciousness and consideration for other people, especially if they're like, new coworkers or new associates and all these other things. Just trying to like make a good first impression, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Thank you for sharing a bit of your journey and the things that you've been working through. What I would say when it comes to, I call it containment. That's the way that I visualize this struggle that a lot of us have with boundaries and taking up too much space, right? And this is actually a pretty common thing. Do you struggle with anxiety, or if you're okay with me asking that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so typically people that have high levels of anxiety do tend to show up in that way, and other people don't understand them. And so one of the things that I want you to start doing before, like when you go into spaces with other people, is I want you to focus on your breathing, not so much on what you're going to say next, right? Focus on your breathing, the slow, deep breathing. Do that before you go into a space of other people, but also while you're there. You can do deep breathing and no one even knows it, right? The deep breathing is going to calm your nervous system down. That's why all the doctors and the therapists say deep breathing. Because when we feel like we're panicking or anxiety is high, the breathing regulates our heart rate. So scientifically, it does work. So I want you to focus on your breathing. That's first. The second thing is I want you to become a student of yourself. When you're in these spaces and you are intentionally watching what you say, interjecting at spaces that feel good for you, I want you to notice what you start thinking, okay? When you slow down and you stop talking and you pay more attention and you go inward in self-study, the awareness for you about why am I talking so much? Why am I taking up space and not giving, to the point that I'm not giving other people space? That's where the awareness will begin to come up, okay? And it's not so much about a first impression on other people, because I can almost bet that when you leave those engagements where you feel like, man, I've overtalked, you're probably beating yourself up, aren't you? Yeah. You're picking apart all the things you said, what other people are probably thinking about you, like, darn, I did it again. I mean, all of those things. The goal of you breathing and slowing down when you are in community with other people is so that you can leave feeling good about you, not about them. Because you can sit in there and not say 2 words and people are going to have their own opinion about you. So I want your intention and your focus to be on, I want to feel good about myself after I hang out with my friends or after I leave work, right? So become a student of yourself by breathing to help you slow down, and then noticing what thoughts come up as you slow down and you speak less. Sometimes it can be, I'm afraid of silence. I don't like silence. Silence is too awkward. Okay, then you can start exploring. What is it about silence that makes me uncomfortable, right? That's where all these layers of doors and awareness begin to open up. Okay, I hope that's helpful.
It was, thank you. You touched on other things that I think you could kind of pull from what I was saying.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Stella Blessed. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was so encouraging. This isn't exactly a question, but just touching on what stood out. During the meditation, whenever you said you're not too much, I feel like as women, it is so hard to aspire to be successful because just us taking up space, even in a good way, is seen as being too much. And so as someone I'm just starting my journey in college and things like that, it was very encouraging to hear. And just seeing you is encouraging as well. So
thank you so
you
much for sharing. You are welcome.
Course.
You're not too much. None of us are.
No, telling my younger self that, I mean, I've always been, also being culturally Latina and things like that, people just are like, oh my gosh, you're so loud. And I'm like, sorry, I'm exciting. Like,
yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah, and that's just who you are. People used to say, ladies should be quiet. Well, what does that mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I think we have one more person up.
Thank you so much. Loved your talk.
Thank you.
When you're in the thick of it, you've already made a decision, and there's so much coming up, and you're overwhelmed. What was the most helpful support? Was it people? Was it you? What made you keep persisting through it?
Ooh, there were several things. I think a part of it was survival because, even when I was a kid, my dad would always say, you better marry a rich man. Part of it was survival because, I knew that I was going to have to take care of myself and figure out how to create a life that I really loved. And I'm still on that journey, But that was a big anchor for me was, I still want to create a life that I love and that I'm proud of. But it was also my sisters. They were a big part for me. They were extremely supportive. By the time I was divorced, both of my parents had already died. Yeah, and so that was a big one. And the thought of what they would say to me was a big factor for me in really considering the future and the next steps that I was going to take. And it was also my hope for the future. It was also my hope for the future. And so many other things. I mean, I had great friends. Thank God I was financially stable. I know so many women that's not their story. But I had great friends. I was deeply rooted in my faith. And so I think a accumulation of all of those things really made the difference for me. And of course, bomb therapist. I definitely couldn't have got through without my therapist, yeah. So yeah, thank you for asking that. That's a really good question, and it's having me reflect too. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, you did it. I did not come here to work after work, but I thank you. Because what resonated with me was
Yeah.
when you talked about your beautiful dark skin. So, as you see, I am of that hue as well. But unfortunately, um, that's an extra burden on us sometimes we feel, and we put that on us. And I pray that whatever this is that's on us, that our future generations won't feel this way, because we have a lot to give, but we are so consumed with this outer part of us. And I'll speak for myself. I've allowed individuals in my life to feel accepted, and they had a total different agenda. So I love what you said. I thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me to realize that, because probably I didn't realize I had dark skin until I was about 12, when the name calling and the bullying. So, and I kind of carried that with me into adulthood. So sometimes, like the young lady said, I'm a little over the top. And then sometimes I feel that I kind of shrink,
Yeah.
you know? So I thank you. That really helped me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Thank y'all. Any other thoughts? Any questions? Anything anyone would like to share? I think he has one more thing, yeah.
So I want to dwell on this idea of how do you hold space for other people, because it's not just your own pain, but also for other people, because I think we all live together, we live in community, and how do you translate some of these learnings to that?
Are you asking how to hold space for people and help them heal? I want to make sure I'm understanding your question right.
I think the first thing is, it's just the first part of it. Like I don't want to put that on people to be responsible for healing others, but you know, I want to be very specific on, I think there's value in being able to just allow people to say what they need to say and not have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
That's more valuable, I think, than specifically trying to fix them. And I say that as someone who's got to avoid doing that. So.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, you've actually kind of answered the question, but I want to expound on that a little bit. And what you said is like when someone comes to you and they're sharing something difficult that happened for them, or even something good that happened to them, holding space for people looks like just being there with them. And if you do have something that you want to share, our close friends and our family, we know them. So usually we can say, this is what I think, you know? But people are not always in a place to receive that, or maybe they're not coming to you because they're looking for your advice. So holding space for people can also look like asking for permission, like, do you want some feedback, or do you just need a listening ear? Sometimes it's just confirming that. Or even if you are needing someone to hold space for you, asking them, do you have the capacity? I really need to talk about some stuff right now, and it's a lot. right? So checking in with other people so that they can let you know if they have the capacity. But holding space for people has everything to do with boundaries and knowing where we stop and other people begin. And so where you stop and other people begins and ends with the words and their experience. That's all them. There's nothing for us to do about what people share with us, about what they have going on, unless they ask us to partner with them in whatever they have going on. And then, of course, we still have to accept that invite. But yeah, that's a great question, holding space for people. Yeah. Thank you for that. Are there any final thoughts? We have one person up here.
Thank you for all you shared, and I wanted to speak up for those who are maybe further along in the healing journey, and maybe you've reached a place that you're kind of happy with, but you know there's more, not just to heal, but to show up for. And how do you keep the focus when you could just sit back and be happy?
Say that last part again.
You could just sit back and be happy, but you know there's more to push for.
So I would want you to ask yourself, what is the more? What does that mean for you? Can you identify or come up with a vision for the life of this more that you think of? Can you think of that? Can you identify that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what is the resistance with moving towards the more? Or do you feel like you should just stay where you are?
Well, I think there are a few things. There's focus. There are also a lot of risks involved in moving. So it's kind of like, where does the energy, the life, the fire come to focus and actually move forward?
I want to encourage you I want you to think about your anchor. I want you to get an anchor for yourself. Remember in my story, I shared about the anchor that I had that helped me push through difficult times when we were growing that car business, we were working jobs. I mean, we had a lot going on in our lives. And life was good. We could have not started a business. We could have just stayed with our good jobs and, right? Like, we could have just been okay with where we were. But we were both extremely ambitious. And so that anchor for me, remember, was thinking about the future, the life, the vision. I could connect to all of the emotions of it. Whatever your more is, I want you to connect with the emotion and the visual of where you see yourself going and what you want. Your happiness can be elevated. You could put a cherry on top of that thing. That's possible. And so the days that it gets really difficult to work towards and take those steps, I want you to remember to do the next best thing. You don't have to take leaps. Sometimes these little scoots, those work too. Those work too. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions, feedback, anything anyone wants to share? Alrighty, we are at the end of our talk, y'all. So remember I told y'all that I have a resource that I want to give to you with those 10 bold questions. They're shadow work questions that will help you dig a little deeper and get clarity for yourself about your whys. You can text BOLD, B-O-L-D, to 55444. You'll follow a few prompts and it will text you the link to download that PDF, okay? I do want to share as well, you'll probably get an email with an invite for, let me go back to this. You will also get an invite. I'm hosting a live e-course in 2 weeks. It's the last Saturday of this month. And essentially, I'm going to be walking individuals through the bold steps that I took on my healing journey. And my hope is that it's going to help you simplify your own path. So we'll do inner child work. I'll teach you some grounding exercises. We'll talk a lot about boundaries and how to take better care of yourself emotionally and spiritually. And so I'll send you a personal invite for that as well. They are passing around other resources that I want to share with you. If you want to do more reading on any of the topics that I discussed, there are a few book recommendations on there. And at the bottom, when you get some free time this evening and you're thinking over things, give me some feedback about how this talk went. There's a QR code on the bottom of that. But that is it. I will be around, so if you all want to ask any questions or just chat a little more one-on-one, feel free to hang out. I will be around for a bit. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.